So, on January 20th of 1964, I was drafted into the U.S. Army. Now, I had two good friends that said, hey, as long as you're going, we might as well go too. And at that time, the Army had a program that if you wanted to join on the buddy system, you could join for 2 years. Normal enlistment was 4. If you were drafted, it was 2, and if you went on this buddy system, you would only have to go for 2. So, we did it. I got drafted and they joined. We were sent to Fort Knox, Kentucky. When we got there, we were immediately split up into 3 different platoons. I never saw them for basic training. I never saw them for AIT, which comes after basic training. They went to Germany and Texas, and I went to Korea. That's me in basic training at Fort Knox. One of the things I still remember about basic training at Fort Knox was that on February 19th of 1964, the Beatles appeared for the first time on the Ed Sullivan Show. All the guys were all excited. We had a day room with a television. We thought we'd be able to see them. A lot of the guys were really into the Beatles early and were all excited about it, as I say. So what happened was, the night came, the Sunday night that they were going to be on, our sergeant said, "You're not going in there. We want to go in there and watch it, and there's not enough room for everybody, so we're watching it and you're not." That was basic training. That's the way it was. So after basic, went to AIT, which is Advanced Infantry Training, and became a scout. Fort Knox, which was an armor facility, the scouts led the tanks. We would go ahead of the tanks and make sure everything was clear. We would be stationed at a road guard position, tell the tanks which way to turn, make sure everything was clear. That was our job. We had a little track that we drove, which was a 3-man track. It had a 283 Chevy in it, and it was kind of fun to drive. But after AIT, I was headed to Korea. I wanted to make this video to preserve a little bit of the experience that I had in Korea serving in the military. We served in the 7th Division, which no longer exists. It's a piece of history now. It will give you some idea of what life was like in Korea in 1964 and 1965. It was June of 1964, and I was on the troop ship USS General J.C. Breckinridge, headed to South Korea. We sailed into the choppy waters of the San Francisco Bay, and almost everyone immediately got seasick. In a little while, we got our sea legs and settled into ship life. This is a photo of what the bunk area looked like for the infantry soldiers that were on the ship. We shared the ship with a contingent of Marines that were headed to Okinawa, which would be one of our stops, of course, along the way. This was the onboard mess hall where we had our meals. This is where the ship's store was located, which was open, maybe 1 or 2 hours a day. You could go down and get a candy bar if you were lucky enough to make it while it was still open. Here's our stop in Yokohama, Japan. We were allowed to get off for the day. Previously, we had stopped in Honolulu, which was a fun day. And then we would move on to Okinawa, where the Marines would disembark. Then the next stop was South Korea. Everyone on board was given a certificate for crossing the 180th meridian. And on the 4th of July, the sailors were shooting fireworks off the stern of the ship. Our ship arrived at the port of Incheon, South Korea. This is the only photo I could find of the port of Incheon, And believe me, it certainly didn't look like this in 1964. At Incheon, we boarded a train that would take us to my new home for the next 13 months, Camp Hovey, Korea. As the train traveled toward our destination, I looked out the window and couldn't believe my eyes. I had never seen such poverty. In one area, it looked like shacks stacked on top of each other with people sprinkled in between. At one point, the train came to a complete stop. Quickly, a rumor spread through the train that we had run over a child. It was hard to imagine that we would just continue on our way, just as if we had hit a bird or something. It wasn't until later that I saw how this could have happened. As we drove our jeeps and trucks through villages, babies that were just barely able to walk were allowed to wander out into the road, while the villagers would stand and watch them. And the people in the village would just do nothing. That's when I realized I was in a whole other world. Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, so let's start out with my actual arrival at Camp Hovey. After we arrived by train, I have no idea if we took a bus or whatever we did. I have no recollection of it at all. Somehow we got to Camp Hovey. When I arrived at Camp Hovey, I was assigned to the 7th Division, Headquarters Company, 2nd Battalion, 32nd Infantry, Recon Platoon. Now this is me in front of my closet in 2016. And this is me in front of my locker in 1964 in Korea. I didn't buy a camera until I was there for a while. So the pictures, although still in the summer, are of life at camp sometime after I arrived. These pictures were taken sometime after I had made friends. The barracks were just a simple square building that looked a little like a garage. Of course, it was hot that summer, and we had the windows and doors open a lot, but each bunk had a mosquito net that came in handy at night. I think horseplay was our major form of entertainment when we weren't on duty. I'm going to end part 1 of the video here, but I hope that anyone that served in Korea during 1964 or 1965 and was stationed at either Camp Hovey or Camp Casey would leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Anybody leave a comment for that matter. I'm going to leave my email address in the description down below in this video. Email me. I'd love to hear from you. And watch for part 2. In part 2, I'm going to show you what daily life was like. The alerts we went on, the combat training, and the endless guard duty. I hope you'll join me.